Hello and welcome to another video in the series Why Computing Matters. So this is a series of videos in which we will look at the, the most interesting advances in computing, but really we want to understand the excitement behind these advances. We want to understand the people behind the technology, and we want to learn about their stories. Because once we do the people and the stories, this all becomes very real for us and it makes a whole lot more sense. So, this is what I'm trying to do with this series of videos. So, here's the first one. These are all very short videos, but let's see how we go. So, this story is the story of optimization. But I'm going to start somewhere entirely different. Instead of talking about optimization, I'm talking about a battle, well, a long, protracted battle in World War II history. This was the Siege of Leningrad. So, for those of you who are excited by World War II history, the Nazis invaded Russia and they called it Operation Barbarossa. And what they did was their forces advanced as far east as Moscow, as far north as Leningrad. That city is nowadays called St. Petersburg, and as far south as Stalingrad, which is also very famous. What happened in Leningrad is that they didn't actually occupy the city, but they managed to lay siege to it. So, in the siege of Leningrad, the big thing was that people were dying of hunger. And the big thing for the Russians was to supply the city. Now, how would they supply the city? The city was essentially surrounded on three sides by the Nazi forces. So they just had this one lake, which was frozen in the winter months, but over the ice, you could actually run truck convoys. So this was Lake Ladoga, and this was a big thing. So the Russians supplied Leningrad by sending convoys of food trucks over the ice. Now, in fact, I was reminded of this just recently when I was watching a movie on Amazon Prime. This was an amazingly brave thing to do because you're driving heavy trucks on ice of essentially variable thickness. And so this is where our story starts, because Leonid Kantorovich, a mathematician employed by the Soviet government, the Russian government at the time, in the plywood industry, he was solving optimization problems in the plywood industry. He applied these optimization techniques to figuring out, and let's go back to that picture again, figuring out the optimal distance between trucks so that, accounting for the thickness of the ice, the ambient temperature around, which determined how much of a weight that ice could bear, the intent was to maximize the number of trucks you could send over the ice in these convoys. And the story goes that Kantorovich himself was often seen walking between these trucks, taking measurements to improve his mathematical model. So Kantorovich invented the original optimization technique called linear programming. And this technique and the idea of optimization now underpins almost everything we do in computing. If machine learning is your thing, optimization sits at the heart of it. If distributed computing is your thing, Optimization sits at the heart of it. Systems programming, name it. Everywhere you go, there is optimization at the heart of whatever it is you're doing. The optimization problem is that of deciding a bunch of values for a bunch of decision variables such that a set of constraints are satisfied and an objective function is either maximized or minimized. That's optimization. And that's what Leonid Kantorovich discovered. The story goes on that there was another mathematician, an American mathematician working for the US Air Force, who independently came up with the idea of linear programming. But his story we will tell on a different day. As far as Kantorovich is concerned, he got the 1975 Nobel Prize in Economics for his work. And his work goes back to the days of the Siege of Leningrad and the Lake Ladoga convoys, using which the Russians so bravely supplied food to the starving city of Leningrad. So I hope you enjoyed that little story. We'll have a few more of these. Thanks for now.